he or she, I should say, crashed into at least 5 cars in less than 30 seconds. Oh, it is a he.
They're still looking for this person,
Here I was
by
trying
the
to
way.
be fair. I feel like women, we have a certain level of guilt, though, too. Like,
Right.
we'd be like, oh, gosh, okay, 4 I was going to leave, but the 5th one, now I got to leave it. No.
Well, us guys, we tend to do bad things. Wow. My goodness.
Boy.
But, folks, we've got some snow there in Shaker Heights. You want to talk about another story here, all right? Here's the little story of karma. In the middle of Winter Storm Gia, family visiting Kentucky, well, they built a 9-foot-tall snowman around, well, it looks beautiful, right? But there's a catch. They built it around a tree stump.
Yeah, that's kind of the base. So that big base you're looking at is over a tree stump. Well, it was complete with a top hat and a huge smile. Turns out somebody wasn't impressed, or somebody's just a Grinch, because they came home to find tire tracks across the yard ending right at the base of that snowman. Tried to run their Frosty over, but it did not end well.
Nope, they literally rammed right into that tree stump. That'll teach you. That'll teach you to try to run over somebody's snowman.
Hey, Mike. I think it was a guy from Shaker Heights. After he got done there, he probably ended up there.
Yeah, he was like, oh, look, a snowman. I'll run into that, too.
There you go.
Okay. But that truck is still going.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
Because they backed out.
Now they're looking for the accordion front car.
Like, seriously. Everyone should build their snowman with a tree stump in it now, I feel like.
Yeah. Or like other really fun trees.
But I never knew that, like, running over a snowman with your car was a thing before.
Yeah. No, it's a thing for jerks.
It's a thing?
Yeah.
I mean, I've jumped on one
I'm going to build a snowman over, like, one of those dog poop containers. So then when somebody rides into that.
Oh.
Now I'm thinking. Hey, 30 past the hour, you are watching Weather Underground. Don't run into my snowman. Winter Storm Harper is on the move. This storm is set to dump up to 6 feet of snow in the Sierra. Next stop, the Midwest.
It is, Ryan. We'll take you to Chicago this evening. Hello, Chicago. We got some snow on the ground right now, but more is coming our way. In fact, it seems like through the week, Chicago's becoming more in play. You know, there was a moment where we thought it was going to kind of be on the edge. Now we think you're solidly in the snow. Okay, so let's take a closer look at the forecast that we're going to see here short term and then through Harper.
Yeah, we've got winter weather advisories, winter storm warnings, and winter storm watches currently in effect across the central and midwestern part of the country. So from the Dakotas into sections of Nebraska, all the way over towards Ohio and western PA. So we've got a lot of real estate here to watch across this region. Winds right now are on the lighter side, and they'll stay lighter as we go through the overnight. It's as we get into the later part of your Friday that winds begin to pick up in a place like Omaha or Des Moines. By late Friday, now we're looking at Chicago, gusting 20 to 25 miles an hour. Those winds gust up to 30 miles an hour into Saturday morning for a place like Chicago, Indianapolis, and Des Moines. Kansas City could see gusts 40 miles an hour Saturday morning. And you can see that snow moves through, but quickly exiting across parts of the plains by lunchtime on Saturday. Still snowing in earnest across sections of Indiana and Ohio as we get into the second half of your Saturday.
Watch this thing get some legs, though, and then spread its wings right into the Northeast. Tom Nizzle with us tonight to discuss that, because there will be some spots here in the Northeast where literally traffic will be impossible. Travel, you won't be able to do it.
And as often happens with storms as they move to the East Coast, they begin to ingest Atlantic moisture, and that's really going to turbocharge this storm, Mike. Take a look at the computer model forecast here. In time now, we're looking at the trends of the model here. The first run was done on Wednesday morning, and this is a snowfall total forecast. Pay attention to the pink line. I'm going to draw it right in here. That separates a few inches of snow from a really big dump of snow. Boston and New York are on the other side of that. As we went into Wednesday evening, wow, there you go. Down into Boston, heavier snow into New York. This morning's run backed off a little bit. It took that line further north, and now our latest computer runs have taken it back again. I want to point this out because there's still a lot of time here. The storm system is located on the West Coast right now. We've got a lot of time and a lot of uncertainty right along the 95 corridor here for snowfall. We're going to play this out with the computer model now and go into Saturday afternoon. You can see the snow working its way in across upstate New York and Pennsylvania. As we get into Saturday night, take a look at Boston. Now you're into a big dump of snow. It comes in pretty quickly here. New York City's right on that rain snow line. Into Sunday, wee hours of the morning. Boston actually gets into some ice, and that icing with stronger winds and temperatures dropping as we go through the day and into the afternoon here could be critical for the potential for power outages. So there's a lot going on here, Mike. We're going to have to watch this very, very carefully. There's no doubt, however, when we take a look at the snowfall, interior New England, upstate New York could be in for a couple of feet of snow before it's all over.
Absolutely incredible. Tom, thank you so much. Of course, more details still to come. Alex?
All right, well, coming up on Weather Underground, we have more live coverage from the Midwest where significant snow and dangerous cold is incoming. We're going to check in with Scott Newell in Cleveland after the break. And send us your questions on Winter Storm Harper. Use the hashtag WUTV.
Welcome back. I'm Scott Newell here in Cleveland. We're in Ohio City on West 25th. And what's happening here is a little bit of a snowstorm. Not that bad, but it's the second system this week that's moved through here. Of course, the big one is going to be a little bit later on, but I want to show you this one has been hitting at rush hour, but not any significant snow that we've been seeing. Traffic is moving just fine. People going home after working today, but everybody's getting ready for the big one, and that's Harper. It's expected to move in here overnight from Friday to Saturday and be here throughout the day on Saturday. Could get as much as probably anywhere from 5 to 8 inches The temperature tonight here is going to go up, but as Harper moves through, the temperatures, which have been pretty pleasant in Cleveland for actually most of the winter, believe it or not, because that's not usually the case here, the temperatures are going to get really chilly in the next couple of days. So people have to watch out. People have been stocking their homes with some food, getting ready for this. And the good news for here and for other spots that are going to get hit by Harper is that it's going to take place on a weekend. Hopefully you've got everything in place. You'll be able to sit home. Hopefully there will be no power outages and everything will just kind of sail through. But we'll just have to see what's going to happen. Mike Bettis, you know this area well. What's the situation on your end?
Hey, listen, when you're talking as mild as it's been in Cleveland, you know, almost all winter long, and now you're talking about potential temperatures in the Buckeye State that go down below zero, that's a big deal, right? That's a real quick snapback, right? How about this? We're going to be back with Scott here throughout the evening, but how about the cold behind Harper? Look at this map, a lot of purple on it, right? 200 million people will see low temperatures below freezing. That extends down into North Florida, by the way, which temperatures here will go down below 32 degrees. For Minneapolis, we've not reached zero all year long. The latest sub-zero on record happened January 18th, 2012. If you're keeping track, that's tomorrow. Sunday morning, we get down to so we may not get down to zero, so we may extend that record, right? Saturday temperature, 6 below in Bismarck, 26 Chicago, a 39 for you in Louisville. Let's go into Sunday, a lot chillier air, now settling southbound here. 4 in KC, a 10 for you in Chicago. Colder on Monday morning, a lot of places where you're going to have some snowpack, okay? So where you see some of the bright pink or white on the map, your temperatures will be even colder. But in Louisville, we'll be down to 24 degrees. All right, let's talk about the wind chills that go along with it because we've got a howling wind. We're going to have wind chill below zero for us in Minneapolis through Saturday morning, below zero for us in Omaha. How about through Saturday evening? Single digits for us here, Chicago to Indianapolis, then below zero for Sunday morning. So Sunday morning in particular, when the temperature's the coldest, when the winds may be the highest, that's where we're going to have the biggest issues for you to be outside. So exposure is going to be an issue for us here. Limit your time you got to spend outside. Stay inside if you can. But if you're going to be outside, make sure you're dressed appropriately.
Yeah. It's not going to take long for you to have real problems. And everybody
No.
goes, oh, yeah, you know, it's fine. I'm going to be tough. But you can get yourself into a lot of trouble being out there with exposed skin.
And this will be a real shock because that temperature is going to drop like a rock after that cold air.
When I think about all the snow that's going to fall and all that the kids are going to want to do is go outside and play in it, right?
Yeah.
You got to watch the little ones because they've got to be protected from this. They're very susceptible.
Very
to the
much
cold.
so. The wind chill get their face, get their fingers, their nose very easily. Yeah.
Yeah. And pets, too. They need to be brought inside. Animals need to have a safe, warm place to go. Speaking of safe, warm place, inside our home, a lot of times people are using generators. So should they lose power or, you know, just space heaters too. But generators in particular have a risk that is oftentimes forgotten.
This is so critical, and we see this happen every winter. Carbon monoxide poisoning. A lot of times people do not have any idea. It's an odorless gas. You have no idea that it's being emitted from the generator. You need to keep that generator 20 feet from any entrance to your home. You don't even put it inside your garage if the doors and windows are open because it can build up so rapidly there. And it just takes a matter of minutes to actually kill a person with that kind of poisoning.
And you really won't notice any symptoms. You just kind of get groggy.
A little groggy and tired, yeah.
And you generally just fall asleep, and that's it.
So once again, your portable generators outside the home. You also got to be aware of the fact that you're hooking up electricity to these. Electrocution is also an issue, so you've got to be aware of that. Read the safety instructions before you do anything.
Yeah, and space heaters close to furniture, always have to think about that too. That's how so many fires get started. I know it's going to be super cold, and you may want to, go to bed with it near the bed, but
don't forget cleaning the fireplace flues out, or and your wood stoves as well.
Very good.
Information. Well, with millions expected to see at least a foot of snowfall across the Northeast with Winter Storm Harper, what is the largest snowfall you've ever experienced? We asked you, and you've been sending us your answers.
So thank you, everyone, for your comments on Twitter. About 30% of you are in that 2 feet or more. 30% are 3 feet or more. So some of you have really experienced some significant snow. Yeah. I'm impressed.
And the 12% live in Florida, right? Carol says the blizzard of 78 in Toledo, Ohio is where she picked up her big snow.
Yeah. That was a big storm, historical storm on the East Coast as well.
And how about this one from Ray? Blizzard of 93. Most fun my kids had in the snow.
Yeah.
Mark Superstorm 93, I believe, is what he's referring to. That was a epic storm as well.
Yeah, we've had some big snows along the East Coast where if you were lucky enough to live there, you don't forget it.
Yeah.
We've got a lot more to come on the show tonight. We're already looking ahead to yet another winter storm developing next week.
That's right, and that means no rest for the weary, right? Especially in the west where several feet of snow has already fallen. And that's where meteorologist Chris Bruin is live tonight.
Yeah, already seeing totals in the 4 to 6 feet range, and it's still coming down. Take a look at the road conditions. If you ever wondered how much 4 to 6 feet of snow looks like, well, it buries buildings and makes travel extremely difficult, if not near impossible. Wind's a whole nother ball game. We'll have you the latest update from the Sierra when we return. All right, welcome back to the Weather Channel's continuing live coverage here of Winter Storm Harper. You are looking live at Truckee, California. Heads up, East Coast. This storm is headed straight for you. It is going to be one for the history books. Certainly one of the bigger storms we've seen so far this year. And we've already had quite a bit of snow here in Truckee, a city that averages close to about 200 to 300 inches of snow a year, okay? So, you know, a 1 to 2 foot snowstorm, not any big deal for the most part. But when we're talking a 4 to 6 feet snowstorm, yeah, this doesn't happen every day, even here in the high country of the Sierra Mountains across northern and central California. Now, the elevation here in Truckee is about 6,000 feet. The mountains here go towering above 10,000 feet. So you can get an idea of how much snow we have at the lower elevations and some of the valley locations here in the mountains, and then just extrapolate that to what it may look like on some of the mountain passes, on some of the summits. It's double, if not more. Some of the snow drifts on some of the sides of the roads are over 15 feet high because of how much snow has been plowed up through the winter season, and really since the last couple of weeks. But, you know, you guys did that poll about how much snow have you ever seen. And a lot of people are in that 1 to 2 foot range. Have you ever seen what it looks like 3, 4 feet? This is pretty much a good estimate of what that looks like. Snow piles as high as the rooftops. And when you get this kind of snow, guys, they call it the Sierra Smint. And it's a heavy, wet snow, and it weighs a lot. Tom, it's very interesting because we had 1.5 inches of rain before all the snow came, and that was after 20 inches on Tuesday night.
Gosh, and that's like snowcrete, right? That comes down. We talked to Coop Cooper. It's great to build a base on a mountain, but boy, is it a mess to try to clean that up. It's crazy.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about the next storm in the pipeline. I know everybody's like, whoa, 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 Alex. Hold your horses. We've already got something. But I always want to look at what could still be yet to come because it's winter and we anticipate a lot of action now. We're getting to the end of January and into February.
This is the most active time of the year typically, and Mother Nature's not letting us down this year. Let's take a look at the upper air pattern here in the atmosphere that is producing Winter Storm Harper. So this is Saturday when the storm's going to be about in this location. Now let's go ahead and move this forward in time as we go into Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. Take a look. There's yet another big shortwave in the atmosphere. There's a lot of cold air across the country, and that is conducive to producing a low right off of the Colorado Rockies. And indeed, that's what we're setting up for. So let's move from Sunday into Monday and see this system develop right here. So there it is, off the Rockies here. Denver, there you are, and to the north of the track of this low, and it's going to go in this direction, is where we're going to see the snow come down once again. Monday into Tuesday, look at Chicago coming into play. Maybe Minneapolis, maybe Kansas City. Way too early to tell, but what we do know is another weather system is going to track through this part of the country. And typically somewhere in here to the north and west of that system is where we're going to see the snow. So yet again, we've got another one here in the pipeline, and this is likely going to have some significant impacts. What's going to be different about this system is it's going to occur during the weekday, and some of these major cities may have implications during rush hours, both in the morning and in the evening. So stay tuned. This could be our next named winter storm, by the way.
Here we go, one after another after another. Tom, thank you. All right, folks, let's sound off note. A lot of you have questions about our winter storm, so let's get right to it. John asking, I see that Philadelphia south is all rain. Any chance the cold air gets in sooner on Sunday morning to give us a few inches on the back end?
So he's talking about the back end. After this storm system goes off the coast, it'll have northwest winds on the backside, and that cold air will work its way down toward Philly later on Sunday here. So it's not out of the question you can get enough snow to cover the ground here, but by the time the system brings that cold air in, most of the moisture associated with it will already be east of there. So on this one, you can see we're forecasting an inch or two, some of that right on the front side of the system and a little bit on the back.
All right. Good question. Let's get to another one. Matthew would like to know, will any sudden track of Winter Storm Harper mean more or less snow for St. Louis? Could our snow total go up or down?
It certainly can. It could go either direction for St. Louis, but contrary to our last storm here, this one does not look like it's going to have enough juice in the cold air, enough precipitation in the cold air to produce what would be a double-digit snowfall across St. Louis. Nevertheless, Saturday afternoon in particular, you're going to get that combination of wind and snow that's going to put down several inches of snow, mainly to the north of you. So right now, we're going in the 1 to 3 inch range for St. Louis.
All right, good question there. All right, let's get to another one this evening. Again, you can find us on Twitter. Use the hashtag WUTV. Dustin asks, how likely are conditions to wiggle some around Ohio Valley prior to its arrival on Saturday?
Well, again, we're still a ways out as far as the details for this, but northern Ohio, you look pretty well locked into significant snowfall there. I mean, I use the term shovelable, anything over about 5 to 6 inches. And so in northern Ohio, Columbus area northward to Cleveland, I would not be surprised to see 5, 8, 10 inches of snow easily in that area.
All right, winter storm watch is in effect there. All right, Tom, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for your questions. Keep sending them. Again, use the hashtag WUTV on Twitter.
All right, when we come back, we've got a lot more ahead. Big snow likely in the Midwest. And even more concerning forecast, though, is shaping up across the Northeast. We're going to break down where there's the threat of not just significant snow, but also crippling ice and where that threat is increasing.
Right now in Weather Underground, Winter Storm Harper intensifying as it pushes east.
And the images coming out of California, they prove it. From feet of snow burying parts of the Sierra to heavy rain increasing the flash flood and mudslide threat. We're going to take you there live.
The Midwest bracing for the arrival of Winter Storm Harper tomorrow. We break down the timing for big snow and potential blizzard conditions from Omaha to Chicago to Cleveland.
And the big show will be in the Northeast. We'll see where the bullseye for feet of snow is inching closer and closer to some major cities along the I-95 corridor, and why there's also big concern for damaging ice that could knock out power and shut down the highways.
Plus, what in the world is this person in this pickup truck thinking? Watch what happens when you combine bad driving and a snow-covered parking lot. It's all next on Weather Underground.
I don't think they did much thinking is the problem.
Yikes. You're right. Hey, welcome in, everyone. This is Weather Underground. I'm Mike Bettis.
And I'm Alex Wilson. Winter Storm Harper, it's in full swing. Want to get you caught up on what we know right now with Winter Storm Harper. 2 deaths associated with this storm, both in the state of California, and all lower 48 states will see snow or rain from Harper.
18 million people could see a foot of snow or more from this storm, and nearly 56 million Americans under a winter storm watch as a result.
All right. With a storm like this, there's only one man we really can talk to, and that is winter weather expert Tom Nizzle. This thing is truly a coast-to-coast beast. We're already seeing the scenes there in California. We know what's to come across the Midwest, the Plains, and then the Northeast.
Yeah, there's a lot that we know, but there's a lot in the details, especially for major eastern cities that we're uncertain of at this point. And it's interesting to see how this comes together. I oftentimes go up higher into the atmosphere to see how these pieces of energy come together. You've got one piece in the northern jet stream, the other piece here in the southern jet stream, and they actually are going to phase together as we get to the east coast here, and that's what's really going to intensify this storm into the northeast. But first, let's hit the west here. There's that piece of energy coming out of the northern jet stream that combines on the low to produce the snow through South Dakota. Now, as Harper works its way out of the Rockies and begins to head its northeast track, we get into really windy and snowy conditions from Chicago through Omaha, maybe into Kansas City, probably just to the north of there Friday night. Into Saturday morning, a brief period of snow and wind in Kansas City, snow coming down heavily in Chicago. Indianapolis, you're right on the border of heavy snow and that rain mix. Take a look at that right there. Saturday morning, here we go, St. Louis. You've now gotten back into the cold air, and you're going to have snow there before the system moves rapidly eastward. And then finally into the afternoon, it's St. Louis to Indianapolis, that I-70 corridor there that'll see a combination of snow, wind, and really reduced visibility is going to be very tough for travel. You take a look at the total snowfall, there's that maximum there with that northern stream energy, and you really can pretty much run this across in this direction here for the swath of heaviest snow. That's going to include places like Indianapolis in through central Illinois. In Chicago, I've got some real concerns here, guys, because by tomorrow evening, 5 to 6 p.m., that snow's going to come in. It could come in pretty quickly, coat the roadways at the end of the rush hour. That is of concern. If you're concerned about traveling in Chicago, leave work a little bit earlier to make sure that you're home. As we go through the night, the snow is going to pick up across there. The winds will pick up as well going into Sunday morning here. It's going to be pretty blustery. 5 inches of snow not out of the question for Chicago and its metro areas to the north. And if you take a look here, there it is at rush hour. But here's my real concern. Look at those winds here. You're gusting 25 to 30 miles an hour, and your temperatures are in a critical range here. 26, 28 degrees, guys. That's when we start having problems. The snow isn't going to melt on roadways. It'll melt and refreeze. So it could be a rough end of the rush hour in Chicago in particular.
Yeah, you mentioned you may want to consider maybe going in early so you can leave early if that's an option.
Yeah, you're on the side of caution with this one, yeah.
We don't want gridlock like we've seen recently, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we've also got a quick shot of snow moving tonight across the Great Lakes. It's going to put Harper, a little bit of snow down before Harper comes, right? Scott Newell, he's joining us live from Cleveland right now. Scott, a little appetizer here before the big snow comes in late tomorrow into Saturday.
Yeah, the big meal. This one's a really small appetizer. I hate to tell you. We were expecting more snow during this rush hour because you were talking about what's going to happen in Chicago. And as you can see, people are going along just fine. There's no accumulation to speak of. It's about 32, 31 degrees right now. And the street's a little bit slick, but nothing for Cleveland. Cleveland's very used to stuff like this. You know, Cleveland, Buffalo, all these cities that are along the lake here, up off Lake Erie. And the temperature of Lake Erie, by the way, is still pretty warm, around 36, 37 degrees, which is kind of unusual for this time of year. It has been snowing in many areas, snowing up in Detroit. Dayton got a little bit of snow. And further to the south, we have a little bit of rain because the temperatures are a little bit warmer down there. But the big meal, you know, the main course, that is going to be Harper. Comes through here beginning of Saturday, and all through Saturday we're expecting it to come. Tom Nizzle was saying he's expecting anywhere from 5 to 8, maybe as much as 10 inches. The crews at ODOT, the Ohio Department of Transportation, are ready for it. They've really staffed well. I talked to Amanda McFarland from ODOT, and here's what she had to say.
This weekend's storm that's coming in, we're staffed Monday through Friday, 24 hours a day. On the weekends, we schedule as needed. This is one of those weekends where we'll be scheduling as needed. They're going to be coming in Friday evening. They're going to work 12-hour shifts, and they'll be working around the clock until the storm passes and we have the roads in the condition that we want them in.
You know, I've been talking to some people who've been walking around here. This is a nice place for people to come. There's some nice restaurants here like Town Hall, which is where we're standing in front of. And, you know, a lot of people are saying they're aware of the storm coming. One person just passed by here said, "I'll believe it when I see it." But people really have got to be aware that this could be a significant snowfall. It is going to happen on the weekend, which is good, but you've got to have your supplies in. A lot of people have been going to the stores, I know, buying snow blowers because they want to make sure they keep the driveway clean. Also, they've been getting that de-icer, you know, the stuff, the salt you spread on the sidewalks to keep that clean. And that's important because all it takes is one slip and a bad injury, and that is bad news. And you don't want to remember a winter storm like that. Alex and Tom, back to you.
You're exactly right. That is not how you want to retell the stories of Winter Storm Harper. Thanks, Scott. We're going to be checking back in with him. You know, he said a lot of people there, they're getting that first round of snow and then saying, all right, well, I'm going to believe it when I see it. But, you know, for parts of the plains and the Midwest, it's looking more and more likely now. Still some questions, but obviously more certain.
Of the world, Great Lakes, Cleveland, Buffalo, those areas, you're used to 5 to 8 inches of snow. It's usually no big deal, but don't forget, you're going to have winds gusting over 35 miles an hour at times. When you're out on the roadways, that's really going to cause a lot of blowing and drifting snow. That makes travel difficult. And then Saturday night into Sunday, those temperatures are going to drop like a rock and just freeze everything up that's on the ground here. Look at the timing now. This is Saturday at 9 a.m. Watch that snow quickly overspread the upstate New York, Pennsylvania in here, all the way down just to Philly and New York. It's going to start as snow there, change over to rain in both of those areas. But by Saturday night, we're squarely into heavy snow here. And yeah, Boston, you're into the snow as well Saturday night. Now, as we go into Sunday and that low works its way in this direction, we're going to bring some warm air right up into southeast New England. Unfortunately, that could create a situation if it overruns cold air at the surface to produce some icing. That could be significant. We'll talk more about that in a second. And then gradually the storm moves off Sunday evening. Really cold temperatures behind that, going to freeze everything up. There's your swath of snow. And look at, that's Atlantic moisture there. This system gets turbocharged along the northeast coast here. That Atlantic moisture and that cold air are going to combine to produce really heavy snow across the area. Take a look at Boston here. 3 to 4 inches of snow south of Boston. You get north of Boston going up toward Manchester on 93 there. You've got nearly 20 inches of snow. Huge gradient difference in snow across a small area here. And all the model has to do is move a little bit one way or the other in its track to change those snowfall amounts. The other issue, cold air at the surface, and we're going to have moisture and warmer air coming in over that cold air at the surface. We're going to talk more about that in a minute, but that sets up the potential for significant icing in here. You combine a little snow, a little ice, and a lot of wind, and that can bring up the potential for power outages. And after that, by the way, the temperatures drop to the single digits by Monday morning. So we got to be aware of this. We got to plan for this just in case we get into this scenario, guys. It's going to be an interesting storm from so many angles here in the Northeast as well.
Yes, it is, Tom. And there are a couple of cities that you could run into some trouble with an icing. Could that be a New York and a Boston? Well, yeah, it could be. It's just going to depend exactly what the temperature is going to be at the time the precip is there. Do you end up getting rain, then ice, then snow? Do you end up getting rain, then snow, then ice, then back to snow? A lot of different things could be on the table for us here. So let's try to break this down a little bit more specifically with Tom, because you're concerned about what it may mean, especially combined with the wind.
Yeah, and as so often happens in New England, Mike, when you get into interior New England, a little elevation, colder air, it's usually an all-snow event, but it's along the 95 corridor. Places like Boston deal with this all the time. So let's take a look here. As we get into Saturday night, we start as snow. But then as that system gets closer, look at these winds. They just crank up their 40 to 50 mile an hour gusts. 36 degrees at 7 a.m., just this mess of rain and snow. But as we get into mid-morning, that cold air pulls its way down from northern New England, and it changes into an icy event for a few hours here. That could be critical. And then to add salt to the wound, insult on top of injury here, is now the temperatures really drop. We go back to snow
and the winds are
as
still
we get
up
into the evening, with winds still up. So that whole combination can cause some real issues with power outages.
We know that could be a huge factor for us. We know that ice can be one of the most dangerous threats during a winter storm. Our Jim Cantore shows you why.
Check out this blizzard. I am up in the clouds, way up as a matter of fact, about 6,500 feet. It's a long way down there. Snow's flying all over the place, and oh, wait for it. Yes, thunder snow, baby. How do I always get myself in these situations? We'll save that for another segment. All right, listen, this is a monster winter storm, but there's a wrinkle in the forecast. Let's take this down a little closer to the ground. I'll show you what I mean. All right, there is so much warm air feeding into this beast that these falling snowflakes are actually melting. In fact, most of the precipitation around me is rain, which is not good because down near the ground and on the ground, we've got temperatures holding at 29 degrees. Listen, the cold air is so dense, it remains locked in place. The warm air has to go up and over that cold air, and the rain doesn't have time to refreeze into sleet pellets. So now we have to deal with accumulating ice. Just 1/10 of an inch makes roads and sidewalks extremely slippery. 1/4 of an inch can break branches and cause spotty power outages. And once you're over 1/2 inch, serious problems ensue. Ice storms can cause billions of dollars in damage. They can hit ground transportation, aviation, and power sectors. Just look at these power lines. All right, those icicles must be, oh, gee, you gotta be kidding me. Where did that come from? That giant icicle just fell from his cell tower. These ice missiles can reach speeds of 90 miles an hour and land 1,000 pounds of force. Just look around. Ice collects on everything. Look at the stress on these power lines. Hundreds of pounds of excess weight, causing them to sag and sometimes even snap the poles that they're attached to. And you know what? The same goes for the trees. Ice can increase the weight of the branches by 30 times. You hear that? Oh, I think this thing's coming down. Here it comes. Oh! Holy smoke! Whoa, and up! There goes the power. Power's out. Thank goodness nobody was sitting in that bench. You know what? Look around. There's nobody out here. Nobody on the roads. Businesses are shut down. Schools closed. That's exactly the way it should be when you have an ice storm of this magnitude. What the heck is that? Do you hear? You gotta be kidding me, a bus? I obviously spoke too soon. This is not gonna end well. Look, the bus is already starting to slide. Look at that. 150,000 plus accidents per year. It doesn't matter if you're in a heavy bus or a four-wheel drive. You're gonna slide on the ice. 40,000 people get injured on average. And you know what? I hope this bus stops. 500 people lose their lives. That's 500 too many. You know what? It's a good thing that there are no passengers on this bus. You don't ever want to be on the road in these conditions. You're putting yourself and others at risk. Stay at home and be ready to deal with an extended time without power because the crews are not going to be able to get to you until the ice storm is stopped. I've had enough of this. Stay safe. I'm out of here.
Wow. The power of ice. That is an amazing, amazing simulation that we see there. And what's fascinating about weather, it just doesn't go on at the surface. It comes from up in the atmosphere. What a challenge for our computer models to accurately predict what's going on up there, because just a few degrees in difference in the temperature up there can mean everything to the type of wintry precipitation you get. Take this example here. This is what New England will be like early on when Harper comes in. The temperatures from the ground right up into the atmosphere are going to be below freezing. So we have snow develops way up in the clouds, and it stays as snow all the way to the ground. We're going to get a lot of accumulation. But then as that low comes closer, we're going to get some warmer air, a nose of that comes in off the Atlantic Ocean. And as it does so, what's going to happen? That snow that comes down from the atmosphere hits this layer of warm air. It's going to melt, but it doesn't have time to refreeze because it's a relatively shallow layer here of cold air below that. So it comes down as rain, but all the temperatures down at the ground are going to be below 32 degrees in New England. So, southeastern New England in particular, that produces a dangerous glaze of ice. finally, after that low goes by, that cold air really settles in here. The temperatures drop like a rock, and we go back to snow. So there's a lot going on here, Mike, and I'm really concerned about the critical nature of getting freezing precipitation in, along with some strong winds.
I-95 is obviously going to be a huge concern for us. We're focused on Boston and New York. Let's go in between. A place like Hartford, big population center here too.
Yeah, and Hartford's going to be critical. Listen, look at that. We started snow, we go into freezing rain, and then the temperature drops like a rock, which just turns everything into a mass of ice.
You have to be careful, Tom. Thank
Very much
you.
so.
Coming up on Weather Underground, we're going to take you back to the west and show you what they're dealing with there, including what's happening in California with meteorologist Chris Barone.
All right, yeah, speaking of being safe, look at the conditions we're dealing with in Truckee, California. We're gonna have a live report and show you what Interstate 80 looks like and where it's closed coming up next.
Well, Caltrans pulling out the big equipment to clear the roads in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Some areas seeing more than 2 feet of snow in just the last 24 hours. So you get out this giant auger with a big snowblower. That'll literally blow the snow like 70, 80 feet. That's one way to clear it, right? Let's take you right into that snow. Meteorologist Chris Bruin is in Truckee, California for us this evening. Chris, boy, this snow is huge. I mean, we're talking all kinds of things. Avalanche danger, we're talking travel danger, but the one benefit that may come out of this is we're really seeing the snowpack increase here, which is great for the spring melt.
Yeah, that's a big deal here in California. You got to remember, we build the snowpack in the winter and spring, and then we go into dry season. So the more snow we get in the winter, the more water we have for our reservoirs, and the more we're able to help out with fire season come summer and fall. All right, so the snow's been relentless. We've had some breaks over the last hour, but now it's picked up almost to its worst, at least persistent. Here's Interstate 80 just off to my right. There's the checkpoint for the trains. Okay, so what they have is a person here checking to make sure you have chains, but they are also allowing four-wheel, all-wheel drive vehicles with snow tires on. And there's a look at I-80. It's hard to pan into it because the wind's coming directly at this, but it gives you an idea of the cars maybe going 40, 45, and even then, that's on the fast side for the most part. Conditions are going down. It kind of comes and goes. You'll hit this band of snow, and then it catches you by surprise. And keep in mind, up at Donner Pass, we have a live camera. We can show you that. It's much worse, and that's only about 8 miles in that direction off to my west. They actually are holding the eastbound traffic right now because it's too dangerous. There's been too many spinouts. So what they're doing is holding the eastbound traffic on I-80 until conditions improve, at least the weather. And we talked to Caltrans earlier, and they said the winds are just wild up above 7,000 feet. We're at 6,000 feet. Donner Summit is above 7,000 feet. It's crazy how much difference you can imagine. We've already picked up, guys, Alex and Niz, I want to bring you into this discussion. We picked up 20 inches of snow Tuesday night, Wednesday morning. Then we saw 1.5 inches of rain and temperatures near 40 yesterday. And overnight last night, it changed back over to snow, and we've been snowing ever since. But in the higher elevations, it's been snow this whole time. And the totals are just mind-boggling. You know, 1 to 2 foot snowstorm, no big deal here in the Sierra. But a 4 to 6 foot snowstorm, yeah, that's not one you get every other day.
No.
Yeah.
And Tom, I would imagine that change in type for some of those areas is what Coop was mentioning and you guys were talking about yesterday in that concern for getting the varying snow.
And there's also so many issues that you have with avalanches. When you go for these different snow types, the rain coming on top of old snowpack, the new snow on top of that, and then wind. And by the way, let's take a look at some of the reports here. These are the reports we have in. This was through mid-afternoon, okay? A couple of areas right around where Chris is of 3 feet of snow, and this is running at about 7,000 feet. I'm certain well up at 10, 11,000 feet, you may be doubling these kind of amounts. Now, take a look at the winds here, and this one literally blows me away. This is at Mammoth Mountain. I confirmed this with their ski patrol there. They've got a sensor on top of the mountain at 11,083 feet, and this sensor is a verified sensor. Had a wind gust of 164 miles an hour earlier today. Insane. But there were a number of other areas that got close to 100 mile an hour sustained winds. So a very, very critical situation. That builds what we call cornices in the snowpack and also can create avalanches. So there's avalanche warnings up Sierra, Wasatch, even into parts of the Bittertooth and the Sawtooth Mountains. So take a look at this. This is Squaw Valley right now. You can't see much there. That's a ski area, and it is closed right now for the combination of wind and snow. Warnings out for a good part of the Intermountain West right now. The additional snowfall across the area is going to be somewhere in the range of 12 to 18 inches, and that is right through that I-80 corridor there around Truckee as we go in through the next 12 to 18 hours. We've got about a 6 foot snowpack in the area now, and guys, I'm happy to announce that we are now above average for snowfall across the Sierra. So this is good news for those that want to get snowpack built up here for drinking water and irrigation as we go into the spring, Mike.
That is incredible. Just 2 weeks ago, we were in the 60s, so that being over 100% is fantastic. Now, lower elevation, we are worried about the rain in numerous locations. Just look at the water and the mud that we're dealing with. Too many places have seen rain over burn scars and lack of vegetation there in the ash. It's all making for real problems. Scenes like this in too many places. You take a look at the rain we've had the last 7 days. Very big rain along the 5 here. And then up into Redding, California. We've had big rain here. Then you saw the heavy snow up into the mountains, right? This kind of rain over either dry locations or burn scars is just a recipe for disaster. You take a look at what the rain's doing for us right now. We got rain in the Central Valley here. We got rain in portions of Southern California, rain in portions of Northern California. So there's a look at it right now. We do have Orange, Riverside, and San Bernardino County under flood advisories currently. You could be dealing with some low-lying flooding, maybe some brief urban flooding as well, but some of the peaks you'll end up getting the snow that comes along with that. But in any area where you've got a burn scar, you're going to have problems. Look at all the different high water reports or flooding reports we're getting. Riverside, by the way, State Route 60 west at Santa Ana Bridge. Westbound lane number 3 is flooded. Swiftwater rescue was needed there. So high enough water here where people getting in trouble and water rescues are needed. How much more is still to come with this? Well, there are some areas through the night tonight where more snow and more rain will continue. But for most of us, the storm is now coming to an end. Thank goodness.
Of a break. Other spots not going to be so lucky, and still to come on Weather Underground. We'll give you the latest timing for significant snow in the Midwest, Kansas City to Chicago. Take a look at this, a real-life version of bumper cars, but not fun if you owned one of the ones that got bumped. or slammed.
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6.
Something tells me this person's not super with it. Early Sunday morning, a camera caught the driver here in Shaker Heights, Ohio, crashing into all of these cars in less than 30 seconds.
Apparently the police are looking for this suspect now. So if you have any information, they urge you to call them.
They've got to be impaired, right? You can't be that bad of a driver in snow.
I don't know. Boy, that's
Tough
yikes.
stuff. All right, speaking of bad drivers and a little taste of bad karma, in the middle of Winter Storm Gia, a family visiting Kentucky built a giant 9-foot-tall snowman, but they built it around a tree stump. It was complete with a hat and a huge smile. That tree stump served as a nice base for that big bottom.
Looks great.
Yeah.
That's a good-looking snowman. It turns out someone tried to drive their vehicle and plow right over that snowman. They got a very rude awakening when they ran right into that tree stump.
Yeah, you learn the hard way that this snowman was hiding a surprise.
Frosty was a little tougher, I think, than that no-gooder thought.
So I guess the person didn't stick around. You know, Cody
off.
says, well, at least, but it's not going to be hard to figure out who did it when you see the car with the smushed front end.
Whoever's got the bad grill right now is the one, right?
You did it. You hate snowmen.
30 past the hour, you're watching a Weather Underground winter storm. Harper is our big story on the move, set to dump. Get this, a total of 6 feet of snow in the Sierra Mountains in California. And then its next stop, the Midwest.
Right, we're looking at a place like Chicago this evening. This is a location that's going to be looking at accumulating snowfall. We're not talking huge accumulations, though, for Chicago. So I don't want you to really worry about feet of snow here, but we are going to be seeing some impactful wintry weather, mainly because of the timing for Chicago. Let's talk about the alerts that have been issued across parts of the Midwest and the Plains because of Winter Storm Harper. We have winter storm warnings, winter storm watches, and winter weather advisories in effect. The warnings right now encompassing parts of Iowa, getting into South Dakota and southern Minnesota. Winter storm watch currently in effect in Chicago. Winds, they're light out there now. We're going to see the winds increase as we get you into the day on Friday, particularly through the afternoon across the plains, and then by the evening working into sections of the Midwest. You can see that snow moves into a place like Chicago later on Friday and overnight Saturday, or overnight Friday into Saturday, I should say. We'll continue to see that snow piling up. As we get to lunchtime on Saturday, Chicago, you're dry, Des Moines dry, but places like Indianapolis continuing to see the snow. Indianapolis, you are right along that rain-snow line. Could even see some periods of a wintry mix or even a little freezing rain. We'll watch for a zone of that across sections of Indiana. By 7 o'clock Saturday, we're going to end this with some light snow. That wraps up by late evening Saturday. So early Sunday morning, there's nothing out there anymore. And accumulations for a place like Indianapolis look like this. 3 to 6 inches, let's say, around the metro area. South side of town may be closer to that 2 to 3 inch total. North side of town, 4 to 6 inches. So again, all going to be about the placement. I would not consider this gospel at this point. We're going to be watching that line, and as it wiggles, that could result in more or less in the way of totals.
And they got a lot going on in Indy. You know what? The big cheer competition happens this weekend. Thousands of cheerleaders.
I was not a cheerleader.
You do not want to be disappointed by a snowstorm.
I would have been a thrower, not a throwee. I wasn't meant to soar. It wasn't meant. It would be a hard fall.
Good to know. Well, you're meant to soar. You know, you're still part of the team.
I got to lift people.
Still part of the team. All right, you know who is meant to lift as well? Our Tom Nizzle, right? Hey, let's move this thing into the Northeast, Tom, because here we go again. Big time snow for us in the Northeast as the storm likely intensifies.
It does. It gets turbocharged, a little moisture coming in off the Atlantic Ocean. But Mike, we often talk about just a tiny change in the track of the storm system could be so much as far as the amount of snow that occurs. What I'm going to show you here is the ensemble members, the whole team of members from the GFS model and their tracks as this system goes up into New England. So this is the track of Harper. Each one of these blue lines is one of the members telling us this is where they think the storm is going to track. Look at the difference across here. There's about 100-mile difference here in each in these tracks. Now, what we do is we look at where they kind of cluster together, and the GFS forecast is somewhere in this area, but there's still a lot of uncertainty. It could be off by 20, 30, 40 miles, and we're going to show you the result of that when we get into the snowfall forecast. Let's go ahead and play it out here. By Saturday afternoon, it's across upstate New York, Buffalo into heavier snow. As we get into Saturday night, now Boston into snow, New York on the rain snow line. Into Sunday morning here, Boston actually gets a period of freezing rain, which I don't like to see there. That could be serious. And then we eventually move this off the coast and we get into some colder air behind that. When I come back in a little bit, we'll talk a little more about the snowfall and the differences here between the models.
And also coming up on the show, we've got live coverage from the Midwest where significant snow and dangerous cold is coming in with Scott Newell.
Hey, you know what? We were expecting a little bit more of a snowstorm at rush hour today, but not so bad. But look at it. We got it coming down a little bit harder right now. Fortunately, rush hour is just about over, so it looks like things are going to be okay. But we're going to be talking about a much bigger storm here in a bit. We'll be back with more coverage. Welcome back. I'm Scott Newell in Cleveland, where we've had for about the last 4 hours just a little bit of snow coming down through rush hour. Fortunately, it hasn't affected rush hour too much, and we're at the tail end of it right now. But I want you to see the street surfaces right here, kind of shiny right there. It's about 32, 31. We're right on the verge of freezing right now. But the streets, actually, salt is very effective in this kind of temperature. So the streets are actually not so bad. In the rush hour, it wasn't any worse than it usually is. Now, we really haven't had much of an accumulation here. I want you to see the top of this. See, not too much. Actually, I've not had any other hat on but this for the last 4 hours. And so you can see my hat hasn't even got wet, so not so bad at all. But the big story is going to be in the next couple of days. On Saturday morning, that big Harper, that nasty storm is going to move through here. Not only are you going to get a lot more snow than we had here today, but we're also going to get some really cold temperatures. And Tom Nissel was actually talking about this a little bit earlier, that, yeah, we're going to get a bit of snow, but it's going to be that wind that's going to be a huge problem. So, Mike, it is going to get cold here, and we are going to feel it, and Cleveland's going to feel like winter once again, right?
Yeah, for maybe the first time this year, you're going to feel like winter. Scott, thank you very much. It's been so mild there that now we're talking maybe single-digit temperatures or even maybe a shade below zero some places in Ohio, and then the wind that comes with it. You look at this map, though, the country as a whole, over 200 million Americans will have lows below freezing, so below 32 degrees, and many of you see them significantly lower than that. Here's what you wake up to Saturday morning. 6 below in Bismarck, 19 KC, 26 degrees for us in Chicago. Colder yet Sunday morning, all right? 4 in KC, 10 in Chicago, now 18 degrees for us in Louisville. Still staying well below freezing here. Chicago, Pittsburgh, Louisville. And again, a lot of these places will have snow on the ground, and so what's there is staying, all right? As far as the wind chills go, with the cold wind that comes in on the backside of Harper, and with it, you have a wind that's generally going to come out of the north here. So Saturday morning, we're going to have wind chills 12 below zero in Minneapolis. Saturday through the evening, and then overnight when you wake up Sunday morning, will be 5 below Chicago and Indianapolis, 18 below for us in Marquette. Cold through Sunday evening, 8 below Minneapolis, 10 below for us in Omaha, and a 13 below in Bismarck. That chilly air infiltrates the northeast as well. Buffalo, 14 degrees below zero is what it's going to feel like for you Sunday evening. Going to feel like 8 below, 10 below in Scranton. Getting colder yet through the morning on Monday. We're just going to be bone chilling here. Now along the I-95 corridor, we're going to have below zero wind chills here. And even down towards Raleigh, not very comfortable at all. So a lot going on here with the wind, with the cold temperatures, and for many of the folks that are going to be dealing with this, it's their coldest air of the year.
Oh,
by a long shot.
Yeah, for a lot of locations. And that means you got to refresh yourself on also some of the safety tips. So many times, you know, people may use their stove or their oven to heat the home. You don't want to do that. Things like our space heaters too close to curtains, other things. But then also generators. You know, if you were to lose power, you need to get heat going in your house. Generators, they come with some big challenges.
Yeah, you want to keep the generators a good 20 feet from any of your buildings, and you don't want to use them inside the garage, even with your doors and windows open, because those fumes that you can't tell, you can't detect the odor, they can build up very quickly. Space heaters, the newer ones have a tip-over feature, emergency feature on them. But if you've got an old one at home and it tips over, then you could be in really big trouble. That's a fire hazard. You want to be able to understand that before you get into this situation.
Yeah, so many times people think also like a back patio that has an overhang or an awning on it is an okay spot to run a generator. That's also, it really needs to be out in the open away from the home.
Yeah, and with the potential to see down power lines, branches that come down on them, the power went out, you go outside to check it, there may be a line that is down there and it could be live. And there's electrocutions every year from that.
I say to a lot of people, when it comes to your generator, know where the exhaust is on your generator. Point it away from your house. Don't have your generator turned where the exhaust actually points back at your house. Turn it the other direction so it's going away from your home.
Yeah, very good news. And also be aware of the fact that it's generating electricity. The potential for electrocution is also there as well, especially in wet areas. So you got to maintain all those safety functions, all those safety rules when you're working with this.
Good point. And with millions of people expected to see at least a foot of snowfall across the Northeast with Winter Storm Harper, we want to know what the largest snowfall is that you've ever experienced. You voted on Twitter, and here's what we've got thus far. We asked about less than a foot, 1 to 2 feet, 2 to 3 feet, or more than 3 feet. And 60% of our viewers have seen 2 feet or more.
I'm impressed by that. I thought that number might be a little bit on the lower end.
Yeah.
But no, say you. Lisa says this: there was a blizzard mid-70s, Michigan, Ohio, several feet of snow. Caught my T-shirt on fire standing over the stove.
There you go.
There's also a safety tip
There's
for
that.
you.
Don't stand over your stove with your T-shirt hanging on it.
No. Samantha says she measured 36 inches of snow. It was a February snow. I do not want to see that again.
Can understand that.
3 feet even.
Especially if it's stuck around, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for those comments. And this one from Elliot saying, a little over 3 feet of snow is during Winter Storm Stella. Got to stay home for 2 days and enjoyed the warmth inside. Stella, where'd that,
Was that the one
really
like in
hit?
Binghamton?
Mid-Atlantic to Northeast.
Yeah.
That just hammered them. Yeah.
Oh,
that was a
man.
biggie.
Well, Elliot, at least you got to stay home for 2 days. That's kind of
chilled,
nice. Every
yeah.
once in a while when you kind of get to weather-imposed hibernation.
Yeah, hunker down. It's good.
All right, we got a lot more to come on the show. We're already looking ahead to yet another winter storm developing next week.
That means no rest for the weary, especially in the west where feet of snow has fallen. Meteorologist Chris Burns live in California.
Hey, yeah, take a look at I-80. They just reopened it back up. It's been off and on pretty all day. We're going to show you how visibility changes on a matter of an instant coming up next. Hi, welcome back to the Weather Channel's continuing live coverage here. Winter Storm Harper. You got to check this out. If you haven't seen it, this is Interstate 80, and it almost looks like a ghost town, okay? Now, at times, they'll hold up traffic further up on Donner Summit, and then we just had a rush of traffic, which was pretty much bumper to bumper because they're only going 30, 35 miles per hour. And believe it or not, there's actually mountains there off in the distance, but you can't see them at all because the visibility is so bad. And when these snow squalls come in, it takes out everything, and it almost turns it into a whiteout situation. We talked to the mayor earlier, Truckee, and here's what he had to say what was unique about this particular winter storm.
Yeah, you know, this one, I would say, has come in pretty quickly, and it has an intensity to it that, you know, we do see from time to time, but I'd say the winds, the whiteout conditions, the blizzard warning, you know, there was advanced warning that the interstate was going to be closed down because of those conditions. You know, those sorts of things happen on a, you know, obviously a seasonal basis, but I would say this one is just feels intense.
Mm-hmm. And that certainly is the case here, an intense one even for Sierra standards. And we know how much snow the Sierra can get in a general season. But guys, you know, we may be measuring the feet here, measuring the snow in feet here, but we're also going to be seeing totals in the double digits, if not more, in places like the Northeast.
Yeah, it's amazing the legs this storm will have. There's no question about that. But we're also looking at the one that comes after that.
We're always thinking ahead here. Tom Nizzle, let's break down what could be coming into play middle of next week. Of course, by no means are we skipping over Harper because we know that one's got a lot of meat with it, but want to keep our eye on the ball, so to speak.
Yeah, we're now getting to the time of the year. We're into the middle of winter. We've got a lot of cold air, enough cold air across the U.S. You track any system through it, you're going to produce a winter storm. So here's the setup in the upper atmosphere now. This trough right here, this shortwave, is what's producing Harper. And as we get into the weekend, it moves off the coast here. Let's see if we've got another one of those setting up. Well, as we go Sunday into Monday, look at right here. There it is again. And that's going to produce a storm system right here coming off of the Colorado Rockies yet again. And as it does so, we're going to be in line for more snow. So let's go play this out. Watch the precipitation come across the west here. The mountains get plastered again. And then there is that low right there coming off of Colorado. To the north of that low and the west is where the snow typically falls when it tracks. So let's track this from Denver, going up through Minneapolis into Chicago once again. Green Bay, Des Moines, Milwaukee, these are all the cities that could be in line for this storm here. That's Tuesday. Going into the Wednesday time frame, it's now up into the upper Great Lakes, Chicago, Kansas City into snow, and there may be enough cold air left around in New England to see snow as well. So guys, yet again, another storm. It's going to be a long track storm. All we have to do is track these through that cold air, and we'll get more winter weather out of it. Could be our next named storm.
Yeah, listen, there's a long way to go before winter is
We're right
over.
in the heart of it now.
All right, all right. Hey, let's answer some of your questions this evening. We promised you we'd do it, so we're going to do it live on the show tonight. Thomas asking this, Central Indiana, how much snow and ice live 8 miles north of I-70?
Yeah, it's still a very tough call in there. I think you're going to get a significant amount of snow there. Take a look at the corridor there. But what happens at Indy? You're right on that rain snow line Saturday. And then as you get into the afternoon here, you see that rain snow line drop through. The snow picks up. By the way, at the same time, the winds are going to be picking up. So my biggest issue with this part of the storm in this part of the world is the combination of wind and snow, which is really going to drop your visibilities. As temperatures drop, you know that when you get down into the 20s and into the teens, that snow can be kicked up, it gets fluffier, and it gets blown around. And so be careful about traveling in that area as you go from late Friday night, but certainly Saturday afternoon into Saturday evening, guys.
All right, let's get to another question. This one coming to us from our Twitter friend Heads Up. How much snow do you think we'll see in northern Maryland this weekend?
Yeah, northern Maryland's a tough call here. Elevation might help you a little bit, but I think for the most part, you're going to see more of a rain event in that part of the world here. So if you take a look at that and you go into northern Maryland, it's right underneath that 8 to 12 shield in there. There is elevation there, so I wouldn't be surprised you could get a couple of inches of snow out of this. But really, you probably have to get up into PA, into Pennsylvania, into the Laurel Highlands and those areas to really get into the heavier snow.
All right, great question there. Let's get another one in before we wrap up this hour. How about this one? We are looking for, what are we looking at for New York City at the moment? Thanks.
It's going to be a mess there. I think for the most part, you're going to see it's starting off with snow, but then going over to rain for a good part of the day on Sunday. Then think about this. Your roads are all wet. That storm comes through Sunday night, your temperatures actually plummet through the teens down into the single numbers possibly, and you end up with a little snow at the end. What's likely going to happen is you're going to have a flash freeze there where everything ices up as you get into Monday morning there. So you watch that temperature drop there. There's Sunday afternoon, 26 degrees. Boy, as you get into Sunday night and Monday, the bottom falls out here, and that's the freeze up that's going to occur.
Going down into the single digits.
Yeah.
Ouch, Tom, thank you.
You're up.
All right, we'll keep sending your questions. Use the hashtag WUTV. We'll be answering them next hour on the show.
All right, a lot more to come here on tonight's show. We come back on our next hour. Big snow likely across the Midwest. How big is the concern for there and the Northeast? We detail it coming up. Right now on Weather Underground, winter storm Harper intensifying as it blasts east.
And the images coming out of California, they prove it. From feet of snow burying parts of the Sierra to heavy rain increasing the flash flood and mudslide threat. We'll take you there live.
The Midwest bracing for the arrival of this winter storm. We're going to break down the timing for big snow and potential blizzard conditions from Omaha, Nebraska to Chicago, Illinois to Cleveland, Ohio.
And the big show, that's going to be in the Northeast. See where the bullseye for feet of snow is inching closer and closer to major cities along that I-95 corridor. And why there's a big concern for damaging ice that could knock out power and shut down the highways.
Plus, a video you have to see to believe. Watch what happens when you combine bad driving and a snow-covered parking lot. It's all next on Weather Underground. Ouch.
That's really just
Ouch.
the beginning, truly.
Yeah, that is
that
just the
video.
beginning. There's a lot more to that one. Hey, stick around. You're going to see that. But thank you for joining us tonight on Weather Underground. I'm Mike Bettis.
And I'm Alex Wilson. Winter Storm Harper in full swing. We've got Chris Bruin monitoring the start of this, and it's off to quite a start, Chris, there in Truckee, California.
Oh, yeah. Guys, if you ever imagine a snow globe, I mean, we're just a world of white here. The plow just came through. It looks like they're holding traffic. This is Interstate 80, and yeah, it doesn't look very friendly at all. We've got avalanche warnings. We've got winter storm warnings. We're gonna experience blizzard conditions all evening long until the weekend when things finally quiet down. And then all of this is headed across the country and is gonna bring places like the Northeast measuring their snow totals in feet like we are here. We'll have the latest update coming up next.
All right, Chris, thank you very much. Let's get you up to date on the latest with Winter Storm Harper. 2 deaths associated with the storm, both in California.
Now, all lower 48 states will see snow or rain from Harper.
18 million people. 18 million people expect to see a foot of snow or more, and now it's up to 77 million Americans under a winter storm watch. That's an amazing number.
We have a lot of people affected, and we've got one man with some of the answers, some of the questions that are still in play. Our winter weather expert, Tom Nizzle. We're getting closer. We're beginning to get those details ironed down. Details that are still in play.
That's a very good point. What we do know, a long swath of wintry precipitation all the way across the U.S. from coast to coast. What we don't know, some of the details. Where's it going to occur? Is it going to hit Boston? Is it going to hit New York? Those are questions we still have to answer. Here's the setup in the atmosphere now. This storm system is coming onshore right here. This dip in the atmosphere right here, this short wave is in the southern jet stream here, produces the low. That's Harper coming off of the Rockies here. We're going to show that in a minute. And there's another feature coming out of the northern Rockies. And these will actually come together, what we refer to as phase, to turbocharge the storm on the East Coast later in the weekend. But first things first, there's that northern jet stream feature going through South Dakota and places like Pierre going into Sioux Falls. This is going to be tomorrow morning. Watch that during your rush hour time frame in there. As we get into tomorrow night, now the snow spreads eastward. We're going to talk about Chicago in a minute here. I'm very concerned about that area under rush hour. Into Saturday, wee hours of the morning, Kansas City into strong winds and heavy snow. Could be some blizzard conditions back in that part of the world, guys. And then into Saturday, mid-morning to afternoon, look at that rain snow line. Right up just to the south of St. Louis, right across Indianapolis. Big questions as to exactly how much snow occurs in these areas. Finally, Saturday mid to late afternoon, the system continues to move across the Appalachians here, and what is left back in the cold air here is going to be snow from St. Louis to Indy. By the way, that I-70 corridor Saturday afternoon, that could be a critical area for travel. Take a look at the swath of snow going through here. This is going to be tomorrow through Sunday morning. I want to highlight in the area around Chicago here. Take a look at the end of the rush hour here. Watch the snow come in. This is 5 to 6 p.m. Now, the heaviest snow north, up around Waukegan in those areas, but I don't like to see that at 6 to 7 p.m. My concern is that things are going to go down very rapidly as the snow comes in. If you really have to plan ahead and you want to be safe, I'm going to want to leave work just a little bit early in the Chicago area tomorrow afternoon, guys, for the evening rush hour. And again, look at that time frame. And I don't like those temperatures.
doing a lot of pushing of snow, and when that happens with the amount of snow, sometimes there's a thing called a snow cloud, and it's where snow comes up and over the snow plow, and if you're following too closely next to them or behind them, it could quickly reduce your visibility and make it very difficult to drive. So we want everyone to give the snow plows a safe bubble zone around them to be able to do their job safely, as well as keep you safe, because ultimately what they're doing is trying to make travel for you safe.
Driving is all about visibility, and that's why you got to have these things so you can see out. It's really important, and don't get too close to the plows. All right, that's the way it is here in Cleveland. We're getting ready for the bigger storm. Tom, Alex, back to you.
Yeah, so bigger storm indeed. This one is going to be quite the storm for you in Cleveland, Southeast, and things really get cranking.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the storm gets turbocharged. You know, as it gets toward the Atlantic Ocean, it's pulling in a lot more moisture, and we've got a lot of cold air in place, especially interior New England. So let's go ahead and play this out in time. So Saturday morning into Saturday afternoon, look at the snow spread eastward here. Now we're into Albany. We're coming into New York City. Buffalo squarely into heavier snow during the afternoon hours. By Saturday late at night, rain snow line right through New York here to the south of Boston. You get snow on the front end of the system, Boston. But then as you get into Sunday morning, we get into a little bit of ice here. This could be critical here. A quarter-inch of ice after some snow and then some strong winds could cause power outages. Be aware of that. Going into Sunday afternoon, we will go back eventually into snow across this area here. New York City, you get cold enough to go into snow, but by that time, most of the precipitation is out of the way. And then, man, you get into Sunday night, Monday, the system is off the coast, but really cold air comes in behind it and drops those temperatures into the single numbers. Snowfall, take a look at this. Again, interior New England likely is going to see anywhere from 1.5 feet to 2 feet of snow. The I-95 corridor is going to be the big question mark, as it always is, really delineating this area where the heavier snow will be. I think the snowfall totals are down in this area, like in parts of Connecticut, because you're probably going to see a period of sleet and freezing rain there. But zoom into Boston here. Take a look at the snowfall difference from the south end of the city to up going into New Hampshire toward Manchester. 3 to 4 inches here, nearly 20 inches there. A huge difference, and this is always, always a big challenge for the forecast here. So stay tuned in Boston. We're going to try to refine this forecast as we get into tomorrow, Mike.
We also think, though, Tom, right, that icing could be a problem for us. It may not just be snow that we have to deal with. New York and Boston, oh, the forecast is so tricky for us here. Could there be rain? Definitely. Could there be ice? Definitely. Could there be snow? Definitely. So how do you manage all of those things? How difficult is it to forecast ice? How do you know? What impact could it have? Will it create bad travel conditions? Will it create power outage conditions? Just depends when it falls.
Yeah, and there's so many other factors that come into play. This ice forecast that we have here goes, look at this, just from north of New York to Boston. I'm going to guess there's probably about 10, 12 million people that may be impacted by this. So if the ice comes down after we've had some snow, as the winds are gusting over 35 miles an hour, and then there's more snow and colder temperatures on the backside, all that could combine to produce a power outage. And that's what's really got me concerned in this area.
All right, Tom, thank you. We'll talk a lot more about the ice still to come here on Weather Underground. But also for you this evening, we got to talk a little bit more about what it could mean as far as crippling ice, power outages, and travel conditions. We're going to show you ice like you've never seen it before with Jim Cantori. As Winter Storm Harper takes aim on the Midwest and Northeast, ice could become a major threat.
Yeah, and some of the biggest cities in the country could be affected. Jim Cantori heads into the atmosphere to find out why it's so dangerous and how to keep you safe.
Check out this blizzard. I am up in the clouds, way up as a matter of fact, about 6,500 feet. It's a long way down there. Snow's flying all over the place, and oh, wait for it. Yes, thunder snow, baby. How do I always get myself in these situations? We'll save that for another segment. All right, listen, this is a monster winter storm, but there's a wrinkle in the forecast. Let's take this down a little closer to the ground, and I'll show you what I mean. All right, there is so much warm air feeding into this beast that these falling snowflakes are actually melting. In fact, most of the precipitation around me is rain, which is not good because down near the ground and on the ground, we've got temperatures holding at 29 degrees. Listen, the cold air is so dense, it remains locked in place. The warm air has to go up and over that cold air, and the rain doesn't have time to refreeze into sleet pellets. So now we have to deal with accumulating ice. Just 1/10 of an inch makes roads and sidewalks extremely slippery. 1/4 of an inch can break branches and cause spotty power outages. And once you're over 1/2 inch, serious problems ensue. Ice storms can cause billions of dollars in damage. They can hit ground transportation, aviation, and power sectors really hard. I mean, just look at these power lines. All right, those icicles must be, oh, gee, you gotta be kidding me. Where did that come from? That giant icicle just fell from his cell tower. These ice missiles can reach speeds of 90 miles an hour and land with 1,000 pounds of force. Just look around. Ice collects on everything. Look at the stress on these power lines. Hundreds of pounds of excess weight, causing them to sag and sometimes even snap the poles that they're attached to. And you know what? The same goes for the trees. Ice can increase the weight of the branches by 30 times. You hear that? Uh-oh, I think this thing's coming down. Here it comes. Oh! Holy smoke! Whoa, and up! There goes the power. Power's out. Thank goodness nobody was sitting in that bench. You know what? Look around. There's nobody out here. Nobody on the roads. Businesses are shut down. Schools closed. That's exactly the way it should be when you have an ice storm of this magnitude. What the heck is that? Do you hear? You gotta be kidding me. A bus? I obviously spoke too soon. This is not gonna end well. Look, the bus is already starting to slide. Look at that. 150,000 plus accidents per year. It doesn't matter if you're in a heavy bus or a four-wheel drive. You're gonna slide on the ice. 40,000 people get injured on average. And you know what? I hope this bus stops. 500 people lose their lives. That's 500 too many. You know what? It's a good thing that there are no passengers on this bus. You don't ever want to be on the road in these conditions. You're putting yourself and others at risk. Stay at home and be ready to deal with an extended time without power because the crews are not going to be able to get to you until the ice storm is stopped. I've had enough of this. Stay safe. I'm out of here.
Get that man a helmet.
Need some protection out there.
Scary stuff, but just goes to show you, doesn't take much ice to cause big problems.
This weekend, that's for sure. Hey, I want you to stick around on the show tonight. The Northeast will expect some serious snow from Winter Storm Harper. All you have to do is look to the west to see how it started.
And we've got live coverage from where the snow has come down in feet with Chris Bruin. And if you want to send us a question, we'd love to answer it. Use the hashtag WUTV. Ask us all your Harper questions and send them on Twitter. We're asking winter weather expert Tom Nizzle coming up.
Welcome back to Weather Channel's continued here of Winter Storm Harper. We're live in Truckee, California, where we have been seeing the snow since the wee hours of the morning. It's been nonstop for the most part, totaling over a half foot already, on top of the 20 inches that we saw 48 hours ago and the rain that we picked up yesterday. So I want to bring in the skiing side of things. There's a lot of awesome resorts here. We got Alex, the PR from Squaw Valley and Alpine Meadows. So working from home today, I take it?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I have that luxury to not have to drive in and out of the valley, which I hear it has just been hammering snow all day long. So that was a nice way to go today, yeah.
Certainly. Let's talk about the milestone Alpine Meadows and Squaw Valley have seen with this recent snowstorm.
Yeah, so we had 2 feet fall in 24 hours that we measured this morning. So obviously that stat has jumped up a bit today.
So that's old news.
That's old news, yeah. And we had 4.5 feet in the last 2 days, actually. And then last night we surpassed 200 inches of snowfall total this season. So we're at 216, which is 18 feet, which is, I mean, kind of incredible. It's actually half of what we expect to see in an average season. And the majority of that snow fell just in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. Now talk about the resort operations today and going into the weekend.
Yeah, so we were able to open some of our lifts this morning. Our upper mountain stayed on wind hold the whole day.
Okay.
We had very significant gusts and sustained winds on our upper mountain today. We did open our lower mountain, but around 2:30 we had to take those lifts off schedule. Winds were too high and conditions were just such that it made sense to shut down a little early today.
But we've got a mass of people likely to head up this way for the weekend, and the weather's going to cooperate nicely. It looks like Bluebird ski day.
Yeah, this storm looks like it's clearing out tomorrow. We'll kind of see what it's left us with, but it should be an amazing weekend, really deep powder, and we're expecting a lot of people from, the Bay Area, Reno, Sacramento, our normal weekend warriors to come up and hit it hard this weekend.
And talk about what, really quick, I know the avalanche risk is high in the backcountry. Does the resort take measures to protect the slopes?
Yeah, absolutely. We are very serious about safety at Squaw Valley Alpine Meadows. Our ski patrol is out conducting avalanche control in the mornings when we have these significant storms. They use explosive devices to try to trigger an avalanche so that we kind of get that out of the way before we can open to our guests. Our lift maintenance and lift operations teams are out clearing snow off of our lifts, digging the chairs out, kind of trying to get everything ready. We kind of have to hit the reset button after these big storms come in.
All right, you heard it herself, digging the chairs out. That really goes to show you just how much snow we have seen here in the Sierra. And I would not be surprised, Tom and Alex, if some areas saw over 6 feet of snow from the storm total over the last 3 days.
Yeah, totally a viable option, Tom.
Yeah, and we were reporting on the potential to see 5-6 feet of snow out of this. But boy, some of the rain reports. Now, that young lady was talking about Squaw Valley there and that they had to be closed because of the winds up there. They actually, I've been getting the reports in here. Let's first go to the snowfall. Number of reports here, and this is right along the I-80 corridor of 3 feet of snow. So easily could double that when you get to the higher elevations. Here is the strongest wind gust we've seen so far. 132 sustained, 164, and that was up at 11,000 feet at Mammoth Mountain. But at Squaw Valley, I just got a report here looking for the National Weather Service. They gusted to 138 miles an hour. Those are major winds. You're not doing anything in a wind like that, especially with snow coming down. Still a large area winter storm warnings out across a good part of the Intermountain West here for significant snow. In the Sierra, we're still expecting anywhere from 12 to 18 inches of snow at mountaintop. Most of the event is over. That's going to be in the next 6 hours or so. And if we take a look here, we are now above average for the season as snowfall. And boy, we're going to add to this as we go through the next few days here, guys, because this is a major storm here. They haven't put these numbers into the snowfall. And guys, this is money in the savings bank. This snow that accumulates throughout the winter in the Sierra is what they use, what ends up melting and going into the reservoirs for drinking water and irrigation through a good part of the summer. So this is good news.
Could not come at a better time. Tom, thank you very much. We know snow up there on the peaks, and then down at the low elevations, it's been serious rain. And how about this, a swiftwater rescue in Los Angeles County. They pulled a person from rising water in the San Gabriel River here. Had to do it by helicopter. Scary times for sure. You need to do everything you can to avoid finding yourselves in floodwater. The rain slowly coming to an end tonight, but there are many areas across California, especially Southern California and downstream of Burns Gar. We have flood advisories in effect right now, including Orange, Riverside, and San Bernardino County. We'll be back right after this on the Weather Channel.
is a real-life version of bumper cars. But bumper cars aren't really fun in real life, especially if yours is the car getting bumped and you're not the bumper, you're the bumpy.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that is just painful to watch. And he's burning rubber too.
Yeah.
This truck slams into 5 cars in Shaker Heights, Ohio, in this parking lot. A little bit of snow there in the parking lot. Doesn't appear, though, that snow was a factor.
No, I think he was either drunk or mad at, like, got kicked out of the apartment or something.
Something went terribly wrong here. Police still looking for this suspect.
Yeah, speaking of bad drivers, and a little story about karma for you. In the middle of Winter Storm Gia, a family visiting Kentucky built a giant 9-foot-tall snowman. It was built around a tree stump, though. Complete with the top hat and huge smile. You can't even see the stump.
No, it did a nice job of forming the base of the snowman. Turns out someone tried to use their vehicle to plow right over that snowman, and then they were, well, let's just say, unpleasantly surprised.
Oh, they were indeed.
They found that tree stump.
Yeah, they most certainly did. Cody Letts Media sharing this. It was a now you don't see it, now you do. And unfortunately for the driver of that car that was just trying to be a jerk and ruin that nice snowman.
That's what you get.
That's what you get. Now you got a big old car bill. Well, it's 30 past the hour. You are watching Weather Underground. Winter storm Harper on the move this evening. This storm's set to dump up to 6 feet of snow in the Sierra. Next stop, Midwest.
That's right. We take you to Chicago. We think that a decent snow's coming your way, but we also think some big wind is going to come your way as well. There'll be a lot of cities in the Midwest that deal with both aspects of Winter Storm Harper. And I think for a lot of people, you don't want to underestimate how bad travel conditions could get when the winds really start to crank with the snow.
Absolutely. It's going to be a real mess in some areas. And because of the snow and then the wind, we've got winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories, winter storm watches also posted. That, of course, for the snow. But as Mike said, the wind's going to make it just even more miserable. Winds begin to crank up as we get into tomorrow afternoon around a place like Omaha, Kansas City, or Des Moines. Chicago, it's going to be later in the evening that you'll begin to see those 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Those continue into the morning hours on Saturday. A place like Indianapolis could also see winds gusting to around 30 miles an hour. Snow moving through the area, exiting a place like Chicago by Saturday at lunchtime. In Indianapolis, though, we'll keep the snow longer, and some areas are looking at that wintry mix, maybe a little icy accumulation there. So this I-70 corridor through central Indiana is going to be one of those spots to watch. You can see that area of precipitation kind of hovering around until we change over to all snow for the end of the event during the Saturday afternoon time frame. By Sunday morning, we are dry. But in Indianapolis, accumulations on the order of 1 to 6 inches metro-wide. So you see what a discrepancy we've got right now. Areas south of town look to be in that 1 to 2 inches. You've got the better possibility of the rain-snow mix, even plain rain at times. North side of Indianapolis, that's where we've got that higher likelihood for staying in snow throughout the event. So that's where 4 to 6 plus inch totals are a little more likely. So Indianapolis, in the metro area, your timing is Friday night into Saturday evening. You'll be watching for rain and snow. In downtown Indianapolis, we're thinking 3 to 5 inches. But, Mike, as we mentioned, the winds also kicking and the air will be cold. It's
going to be a rough one in Indy, no question. Then it gets really rough from there, pushing across the Ohio Valley and into the Northeast. Our winter weather expert, Tom Nizzle, with us now. When this thing gets into the Northeast, Tom, and I think people might be surprised by this forecast, there are some places where 2 to 3 feet of snow is possible.
It's certainly not out of the question. The higher elevations of interior New England, maybe southern New Hampshire, in through southern Vermont, those are the areas. And, you know, they've seen storms like this in the past. So they got to hunker down and be ready for this. Look at the snowfall track of this storm, though, all the way from the northern plains here, all the way across here. And as the system comes off of the Appalachians here, in this spot right there, really get turbocharges. It brings in some Atlantic moisture into that cold air. That's why we see the kind of snowfall totals we're seeing across New England. I-95 corridor, always an issue here. Look at New York City's right on the edge of heavier snow. Boston as well. Back here, it's in upstate eastern New York and through the interior sections of New England where the heaviest snow is likely. And boy, when we go right down to Boston, 3 to 4 inches of snow down toward Plymouth, 19 inches, 19 to 20 inches being forecast in Manchester. This is always a critical area for determining snowfall amounts. One of the reasons I think the snowfall drops off down here is we may have more of an extended period of sleet and freezing rain. That's a big concern there. New York City, take a look as well. New York, only an inch of snow, but you don't have to go very far north of here into Yonkers, Paterson, New Jersey, into these areas where you got a half a foot or more of snowfall. So huge differences over a very small area across this region. We're also going to have a setup for freezing rain. You've got that cold air at the surface, and then you get warm moisture that overruns it. And right in that area right there, you're going to have that setup where that snow melts, comes through that layer, and comes down and glazes this area with ice. These are the areas I'm concerned about. And guys, you combine the ice with stronger winds and rapidly falling temperatures on the back end of this, power outages could be likely. There's Boston, the snow as we get into Saturday night, a period of freezing rain possible at the worst time when your winds are gusting 40 to 50 miles an hour, and then you end it as snow and temperatures dropping like a rock. By Monday morning, you'll be in the single digits. So a lot going on here. we know in general we're going to have a storm across New England, but some of the details in places like New York City and Boston we still have to wait for, and that's going to be critical. The silver lining in this cloud, once again, most of it occurs during a weekend, and Monday is a holiday.
And won't have to hit the roads. You've been asking us a lot of questions on Twitter, and we want to answer some of them. Harvey wants to know, I'm north of Fitchburg, Massachusetts, elevation 704 feet. What do you forecast for this north of the city area?
Yeah, elevation means a lot. In fact, you get up to 1,200 feet just north of there very quickly. You see how that snowfall increases there. You're going to be more of a snow event across that area. And with that elevation, I wouldn't be surprised you're in double-digit snowfall across that part of the world. So be aware of that. And then on the backside of this system, temperatures drop like a rock. You put a foot of snow down in those areas, winds gusting to 40 miles an hour, and temperatures in the single digits by Monday morning. And that all adds up to a time where you want to hunker down, stay in the safety and comfort of your home.
Our weather producer, Sarah, highlighting that 17 inches of snow very near Fitchburg.
Yeah, not far away.
So be prepared for that.
Yeah, could be very, very interesting. Let's get this question from Robert Ross. He says, what about Erie, Pennsylvania?
Erie, I think you're going to be in line for a fair amount of snow from this system as well. Take a look at that. Right now, we're forecasting 8 to 12 inches in Erie. And by the way, you're going to have a northeast wind in Erie as well coming off of the lake, so that'll compound the issues. I-90 corridor, Saturday into Sunday, could be critical for driving, and that's going to be all the way from Cleveland up through Buffalo over to Syracuse and Albany. So it's going to be rough driving conditions there. If you don't have to go anywhere for this weekend, once again, stay home.
All right, now, an important corridor, I-95. We got a question about that tonight from Snow Lover. Hey, Woo, what's the forecast for I-95 in central Jersey? How do you predict where the pressure systems will end up?
Yeah, predicting where the pressure systems go is a huge challenge here. Let's first take a look at your forecast there on the 95 corridor. It really separates you from snow and no snow, doesn't it? In central Jersey there, you could be in the range of 1 to 3, 3 to 5 inches of snow, but northern Jersey, you're going to be more up like 8 to 12 inches of snow. So you're going to have to watch this one carefully. My gut feeling, closer to the coast you are in Jersey, the less chance you're going to have for snow. What tells us how much snow you're going to have? It's a track of that storm. Typically, if they track inside that red cross there, referred to as the benchmark, 40 degrees north, 70 degrees west, you typically get more rain along the coastal areas. If they go to the outside, you oftentimes get just a snowfall event. This one's going right over the benchmark. I think that central Jersey is likely going to see more rain than snow, but stay tuned because just a little jog in that storm track could mean a whole lot more snow.
Let's get another question. This one coming to us. Okay, we do. Raider Man says, I live a couple miles south of Saratoga Springs, New York. How much snow can I expect from Harper?
Again, you're in elevation getting up toward Albany, Saratoga Springs. You're further inland there, so I'd have no problem forecasting 18 to 24 inches of snow across that area. And once again, that could come with winds gusting over 35 miles an hour at times. And probably, I wouldn't be surprised that the eastern slopes of the Berkshires, those areas are going to see a little bit more snow because of that easterly wind coming off of the ocean there. So a little bit more uplift there. You may get a little enhancement. Hudson Valley, you drop off a little bit of snow, and then as you come up into the Catskills, it increases again.
All right, great questions, everyone. We're going to do it again here before the end of the show. So if you're on Twitter, you have a question about your forecast, what may happen with Harper, send it to us, but also include this hashtag, WUTV. We will do our best to answer as many as we can for the remainder of the show tonight.
All right, and we've been talking a lot about the wintry precip, the snow, the potential ice, but this system's also going to bring with it some serious cold, dangerous cold for a lot of the country.
Yeah, we're going to talk about how low the temperatures go and what could lead to a flash freeze, potentially producing very dangerous conditions for you out on the road. Join us here for our continuing coverage of Winter Storm Harper. We're back after this short break. We've been showing you all the precipitation, the ice, the rain, the snow that comes with Winter Storm Harper. How about the cold that accompanies it? And look at this, 200 million Americans, and that includes every single state in the lower 48 will experience temperatures below freezing. Does include Texas as well as Florida. Okay, so we know some dangerous cold rolls in, and for some of you, the coldest temperatures of the season. Let's take you to Saturday morning. 6 below is where you'll be in Bismarck, 26 Chicago, 39 Louisville, a 19 for us in Kansas City. But look at how the numbers drop by Sunday morning. Single digits in Chicago, a 5 for us in Kansas City. Colder yet for some of you on Monday, especially where you've got some heavier snowpack here and some wind coming off the lakes here. But an 11 in Bismarck, a 14 for you in Chicago. But the wind that comes with it becomes a very big factor, and wind chills could be very dangerous. Saturday morning, well below 0 for us in Minneapolis. It's going to feel like 13 in Chicago. Going through the day on Saturday, still very chilly wind chills out there, single digits or below 0. Omaha, it'll feel like 14 below come about lunchtime on Sunday. 14 below for us in Minneapolis, 9 below in Indianapolis by Sunday night, and then Monday morning temperatures likely to be down below 0. So those numbers will be even colder yet. Northeast, we get on the action as well. Here's Sunday evening, well below 0. In fact, Burlington, 21 below is what it's going to feel like, 19 below in Buffalo. Columbus, about 15 degrees below 0 is what it's going to feel like here. Single digit, a 1. Is the wind chill for you in Washington, D.C. on Monday, and then colder yet as you go through Tuesday morning. So you get the point here, folks. Beginning late Sunday, going through at least Tuesday morning, we got some serious cold that's rolling in. It's not just the cold, it's that wind, which will be howling in some circumstances.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people are going to want to get out there in the snow and play in it, but this is dangerous cold, Tom.
Yeah, and what's crazy about this is the huge change you're going to see from one day to the next. In many of these areas, especially in New England, you haven't seen this kind of cold all winter long. So this is really going to be critical, and it's going to come as a shock to a lot of people.
Let's talk a little bit more about hypothermia. You know, we're going to be talking about just a matter of minutes that it's going to take to develop frostbite. You know, now you get hypothermia. That happens when your body loses heat faster than it's able to produce.
Your core temperature comes down below 98.6 degrees, and you're going to suffer from some symptoms, including shivering, numbness, especially in your extremities, and then kind of a glassy stare.
Yeah, so this is something you want to watch, especially the kids. If they are out playing in the snow, you want to know what you need to watch for. You're also looking at apathy, weakness, impaired judgment, and of course, at worst, loss of consciousness.
The best thing you could do is, if you need to be outside or you want to go out there and have some fun, just put a timer on it. Say, okay, we're going to go out for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
We're going to have our fun. We're going to come back in. We're going to warm up. We'll go back out when we're warm.
Yeah, and especially with the kids outside. They're going to want to get out. They're going to want to play in the snow. That wind is going to be up there. If their face isn't protected, again, their extremities, their nose, their toes, their fingers, those are the things that can freeze up very quickly. And a lot of times the little ones have no idea that's happening because you really don't feel it right away.
Yeah, so things to do. Don't warm the person too quickly. If you suspect someone's dealing with this, don't put them in warm water. Don't go throw them in the bathtub. You want to warm the core first, trunk, abdomen, and do not warm the extremities first.
Just be smart.
Yeah.
Be smart in these kind of conditions. So we know that a lot of you are going to see some serious snow, potentially feet of snow. So we asked you today on our Twitter poll, what is the largest snowfall you've ever experienced?
Yeah, we broke it down less than a foot, 1 to 2 feet, 2 to 3 feet, or 3 feet plus. And the majority of our viewers are experienced in snow, big snows.
Yeah, 2 or more feet for 60% of our viewers, which I think is a pretty high number.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. They're all winter hardy people from the north, I'm thinking.
Snowstorm aficionados.
There
like
you go.
Lisa, who had 40 inches in Connecticut with Nemo back in 2013. Snow drifts against the front door made it impossible to open.
Oh, that was crushing. Snow drifts in Indiana in the 1960s, so tall that when my dad opened the garage door, all you could see was snow. I don't know the actual snowfall amount.
Yeah. Always gets tough when you've got the drifts against your house and you're kind of like, surely 10 feet of snow didn't fall. This person said blizzard of 78. I was walking on top of cars.
A lot of people tonight, Tom, have referenced the blizzard of 78.
Yeah, that was a huge storm. 78, another one in 77, walking on cars in that storm as well in upstate New York.
Amazing stuff for sure. All right, folks, stick around. We come back on Weather Underground. Already looking ahead to the next winter storm.
Yeah, that's developing next week. Tom's going to break down what we know now.
Rock slides can be very dangerous in the hillsides of Southern California. How about the rocks that became dislodged near LA and tumbled down onto the winding road below? Boy, this has happened. It seems like every single day this week we've had rock slides, mudslides, something that's closed down a roadway somewhere.
Yeah, so much water across the area.
Oh.
Here you can see some of the damage because of those rock slides here to this car.
Oh.
Just all banged up along the side.
Boy,
Yeah.
that's got to be scary when next thing you know you're broadsided by a boulder, right?
Especially if you're on one of those, hillsides where, there's a ledge on the other side.
Awful. How about this? Like Fulmer overflowing to the roadway here, and the water's got to go somewhere, right? It just finds the path of least resistance.
Absolutely. We look at here the rainy side of the system and the water moving quickly. It's muddy too, so that water is moving downstream, picking up sediments, and that's why we are concerned about the mudslides. You get too much rain, it begins to pick up some of that mud, but then it also could pick up boulders and such. So obviously that flood threat, that mudslide, landslide threat still lingers.
You go up into the Sierra Nevada mountains, whole different story. Excuse me. Meteorologist Chris Bruin is there.
Hey, Chris. Look, you look like you're
Yeah, we
having a
could call
really
it white
good
mud,
time.
guys. We could call it white. Honestly, I'm just amazed. I don't think I've seen snow like this in quite some time, since when I used to live in Jackson Hole. Very reminiscent. It's been nonstop, guys, and it's been windy. I mean, we've had gusts over 40 miles per hour, and the snow rates have been this is almost the worst it has been. We can barely make out visibility. Notice how these cars just disappear into the veil of white, and as the winds pick up, that dims the visibility down even further. Sometimes, though, I-80 gets close enough to cause gridlock in the town of Truckee. We talked to the mayor earlier, a couple weeks ago. They actually had that exact thing happen to them.
We had a storm not dissimilar to this one, maybe not quite as intense, but it did close down Interstate 80 just as everyone was hitting the road to get home, to get back to the San Francisco Bay Area or Sacramento. Oh, wow. I think it caught a lot of folks by surprise. But our town does a lot of coordination with the highway patrol, so we do send out everybody and encourage people to stay put if they can. But yeah, the town ended up essentially a parking lot for many hours that Sunday, and wow. It was not an ideal situation. But again, like I said, sort of the perfect storm of multiple events coming together at the same time.
Now, thankfully, that's not what we have been seeing. We haven't had gridlock, thankfully, and they've been managed to keeping I-80 open at some point. So they close it and then they reopen it. So that's been good news. But what I can't get over is the fact of the winds. Guys, I just saw an unofficial observation out of the NWS Sacramento measuring a gust of 172 miles per hour in one of the mountains here in the Sierra Nevada. I mean, that's Category 5 hurricane strength.
That's nuts.
That's epic.
I mean, that's really nuts. What do you think about that? Tom Nizzle.
Chris, thank you.
Seriously, 172 mile per hour wind.
Yeah, that one we're trying to verify with the weather office, but we have been able to verify 164 mile an hour gusts, and that was on top of Mammoth. A couple of areas and the ski resorts at their crest levels, 138 miles an hour. So it's been an amazing storm, high impact already. And guess what, guys? We may have another one coming down the pike. So let's take a look. The upper air feature, the jet stream here that often produces the high impact winter weather at the surface, has to do with these troughs in the atmosphere, these dips in the atmosphere that come through. We refer to them as short waves in the atmosphere. We've got another one that is coming in as we get into the Sunday, Monday time frame. And look at this on Tuesday, right across the center of the country. That produces a low pressure system, Colorado low coming off of the Rockies here. We got plenty of cold air in place to turn the precipitation into snow. So let's go ahead and let's play it out here. And again, we're well out in time, but in a general sense, we expect to see this low develop off the Rockies here. And there is a snow swath to the north and west of the low. The low is going to track up to the Great Lakes, and we're likely going to see a swath of wintry weather somewhere in the range of the Central Plains to the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes. It could include Kansas City, could include Chicago, Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Green Bay. And as we go into the Wednesday time frame, on the front end, that rain that is moving up will get into some cold air in New England and could produce another round of snow there. Put it all in a nutshell, guys. It's January 23rd. We are at a point now we are getting to the busiest part of the winter season for winter storms, and this is yet another one. So hold on to your seats. Keep that snow shovel handy.
Oh, my goodness. Now we're going to get into the meat of winter for sure. All right, we want to answer as many of your questions as we can before the end of the hour, so let's get right to it. How about this one? Projected snow totals for Topeka, Kansas.
Oh, Topeka. So you're going to be on the northern edge of anything really significant there. If you take a look in the forecast, we're probably looking at 2 to 4 inches of snowfall here. That part of the system is really going to produce most of its snow up a little further north of you into the Dakotas.
All right, great question. Our next question coming to us again via Twitter, hashtag WUTV from Bubba. Is Winter Storm Harper close enough now that the snow totals being predicted will be accurate? You know, we're getting closer, but still there's a lot that could change, especially in the Northeast.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to look at a place like interior New England, I'm pretty confident here we're going to see double-digit snow. But you get down to the 95 corridor, still tremendous uncertainty there into snowfall amounts in that area. The other area I'd be confident is back through the Dakotas, the early part of this storm as it comes out of the plains. So we're just going to have to watch this. Tomorrow we're going to have more updated information, get closer to the event here, and we'll be able to hone in on the area. So if you have an area you're interested in, get back to us tomorrow as well.
We'll work on the specifics. The deal with that map that right there is the storm's still on the west coast, basically.
That's it.
It's got a ways to go. How about New Hampshire's forecast, please?
Boy, southern New Hampshire in particular, around Manchester, getting up in through Concord, in those areas, you're easily going to see a foot of snow. Some forecasters suggesting upwards of 30 inches of snowfall. So we're going to have to watch. And again, eastern slopes of the Berkshires, the Green Mountains, the eastern side will likely get more snowfall because of that influx of warm, moist air coming in off the ocean, getting a little lift over that portion of the mountains.
All right, one more question. This one coming to us, again, from Twitter. Melissa, I am just north of Pittsburgh. I was wondering somebody asked who was coming to Pittsburgh, didn't they? Do we need it? And what will classify the snowstorm as blizzard? You need the low visibilities and you need the winds gusting a certain amount for a period of time.
35 miles an hour, visibility below a quarter mile, and it occurs for 3 hours. I don't think you'll quite get it in Pittsburgh, but you're going to get the snow. Be ready.
Alex Wallace will be there Saturday.
Alex Wallace, my favorite Alex at the Weather Channel.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Look how quick it's moving.
A family vacation turns deadly when a massive bushfire consumes southern Australia.
I really remember thinking, I hope we lose consciousness. I really thought that I was going to die.
Holy.
Storm chasers ride out a monster hurricane as it slams the coast of Mexico.
It became the strongest tropical cyclone ever reliably observed on Earth. It was like being inside a washing machine.
Watch out, John!
And a leisurely morning run becomes deadly when lightning strikes.